As the emotional devastation of last week's massacre in a Texas elementary school is still just beginning to set in on so many grieving families, the political class has seemingly moved on, eager to overlook the suffering and settle in on hapless and hopeless debates and arguments like, are all cops cowards? Over whether we need teachers strapped up like Arnold Schwarzenegger in Kindergarten Cop.
It's not a tumor.
And over whether Beto O'Rourke actually has any convictions that aren't totally determined by his own political ambitions.
Yes, we're going to take your AR-15, your AK-47. We're not going to allow it to be used against our fellow Americans anymore.
I'm not interested in taking anything from anyone. What I want to make sure that we do is defend the Second Amendment.
Not only should no one be able to purchase an AR-15 or an AK-47, but I don't think that the people who have them right now in civilian use should be able to keep them.
In a segment that surprised precisely no one who knows what CNN has allowed itself to become, host Alisyn Camerota gleefully discarded her faux label of journalist and took on the more comfortable role of Democrat Party activist. Climbing up onto a moral high horse so tall she had to pole vault into the saddle, she railroaded a Texas Republican lawmaker by revoltingly posing this appalling question.
Texas, your local legislature can act when it wants to, say, protect the unborn embryo. Why not act with that alacrity to protect living, breathing 10-year-olds?
You know, it really needs to be asked. Does Miss Camerota actually believe this? Like, in her heart of hearts, does she actually believe that representatives like Mr. White don't care what happened in that elementary school? Is that where we are now as a society, that we think so little of one another, that we have convinced ourselves that that other guy, he gets his kicks out of dead kids in fourth grade classrooms? Of course, there are probably some wingnuts who are not capable of critical thinking out there that do think that. But what a despicable question coming from someone in a position like Miss Camerota. And what a disgrace that a platform like CNN would abide it. Now, the obvious answer to her ignorant and divisive question is that Texas lawmakers have already enacted laws to protect 10-year-olds. Texas Penal Code, Title V, Chapter 19, Section 2, bans the murder of living, breathing 10-year-olds, Miss Camerota. The legislature's move on the part of the unborn is merely an effort to maintain medical and scientific and philosophical and moral consistency. The word child is often used to describe a 10-year-old. It's describing a human being at a particular stage of development. It's the same thing with adult, it's the same thing with elderly, the same thing with toddler. And the Texas legislature has simply properly reasoned that the same thing applies for embryo and fetus as well. That those aren't terms that describe non-humans, they're terms that describe human beings at particular stages of development. You know, it says a lot about Miss Camerota that her knee-jerk reaction to the deaths of innocent children in a fourth grade classroom is to complain about legal efforts to prevent the deaths of other innocent children in the womb.
Man, that's gross.
But what it should reveal to us is the sad reality that the people who fill our televisions and our news feeds and our increasingly dominant political culture, they are not going to play any part in the solution to these problems because they are too transfixed on elections and laws. If elections could fix this, they would have by now. Both parties have had control, sole control at one point or another. And if laws could fix this, they would have by now. There is not a single piece of legislation proposed anywhere in the United States that would have stopped that violent teenager from going on his rampage. Not one. So by all means, America, keep listening to the same voices. Circle the same old wagons around the same old tribes. Launch petty insults and gross insinuations at each other, and we'll all meet back here again next time. Or maybe we could do two things that might actually help. One, work diligently, now, to fortify and secure these places that house our most innocent every weekday. According to CBS, at the federal level, we've spent $150 million on school security since 2018. We dropped $40 billion on Ukraine in one day.
Well, that don't add up.
And two, get to work right now, reversing this ethic of nihilism that is at the heart of everything our sick society values and promotes.